What's up, super friends? So check it out. Right here before you, I've got the Superman Lobo 2-pack Follow That Space Cab by Justice League Action. Now, Justice League Action is actually a pretty cool cartoon for a number of reasons. One, it's always cool to see another Justice League-oriented DC cartoon for children to watch that's not aimed towards grown-ups. However, the other cool thing about this is it mixes the sensibilities of Brave and the Bold and also what we know and respect from Justice League Unlimited. It kind of mashes them together into one cartoon, and it's pretty darn cool. I think as a grown-up and as a child, this is a highly enjoyable cartoon. Now, with every cartoon made by DC, there's that chance we're going to get action figures based off of it, and these action figures are actually really kid-oriented, which is cool because not every DC figure needs to be aimed towards an adult collecting audience, because if the kids have nothing to collect and nothing to play with, then they won't grow up themselves and have kids that might become DC fans. And these figures, as far as I'm concerned, do a pretty darn good job of filling that hole. Alright, so coming around in front of you here, you see the Lobo Superman Follow That Space Cab 2-pack, and it's really cool because A, you get Lobo, and how often do we get Lobo ever in a DC set of figures? Like, almost never. We got the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. We got 2 Lobos from DC Direct. One came with the Space Hog, one didn't. One was a reactivated. And then I believe we got one from the Justice League Unlimited. And I think that that's it. I don't think we've seen any more Lobo figures. So you get Lobo, you get the Space Hog, you get Little Mr. Mind on the back there, and then you get another Superman. It's the same as the original one that's been released, not even a repaint, but we do get Superman. So that way kids and parents can recognize it. Pretty darn cool. So we'll start with Superman first, the most recognizable character arguably for most children in the Justice League. Bright red, bright blue, and the articulation on this little guy is pretty darn good for a little kid's figure. Waist articulation, shoulder articulation, rotating 360, elbows that have the single hinge, but they also swivel. You got the groin, which opens right up, and you got all that forward and backwards articulation, and then you got knee articulation, and you got the head, which can rotate and doesn't look that far forward. But the thing is, kids are a whole lot less picky when it comes to articulation in comparison to adults, because children tend to let their imagination do most of the talking. Now, the posability of this figure for a kid is through the roof, and also it's not overwhelming. So it's that perfect mix, I find, because my 5-year-old loves playing with his Justice League Action figures, whereas I tried giving him some of my older DC Universe classics that are more beat up, and he just doesn't want anything to do with them. Next on to Lobo, and it's Lobo that really sells me on this pack because A, you get this really cool Space Hog. I mean, it does a really good job of looking like an intergalactic space Harley, which is clearly what it's attempting to do here. You got these giant, massive rocket boosters on the back there. The front of the bike just looks like it means business. You got this here intake right here. You got the flamey design on the side. And another cool thing is it has an action feature. You push on this little skull here. You ready? Bam! Out pop some space guns for blasting all the bastages. Mr. Mind here also comes with the package. Let's see if we get him to focus. Little guy here. He's actually being taken to the Justice League headquarters because Superman's transporting him there because he's been a naughty Mr. Mind. And he fits right here on the back of the space bike. And I'm telling you, the playability for this for kids is something through the roof because kids like the wheels. And they want to roll this stuff along the floor. That's what my son did right away. Popped it on the floor, whoosh, across the kitchen it went. Whenever there was a bike that came with or for figures, I wanted it. I wanted to have that motorcycle because if you had the motorcycle, your character was, by all accounts, cool. Let's pop Lobo off of the bike and have a look at him. Now, look at that. A Lobo for my 5-year-old to play with, the main man. Now, I wish they did paint that skull in white. That seems a little bit lazy. They could have done that. I'll probably touch that up for the boy. But other than that, he looks like he does in the show. You know, looks like a 1980s metalhead, which is what he looked like. No articulation in the head. Articulation in the waist, same articulation in the shoulders and the elbows as Supes. You got the same groin articulation and the same spinny knee articulation. And that's really it. But he's impressive. Oh, you know what? He comes with a green space hook. I wonder where my son... Maybe it's under the refrigerator or something like that. He comes with a space hook as well. Ta-da! Space hook! I found it! I'm not really sure if that's what it's called. Lobo always has a hook on a chain for, you know, beating the tar out of his enemies or the people he's trying to track down or whatever. But this is kind of strange because it's a hook and it's not really on a chain. It's more on a stick. It's like a really short shepherd staff or a bright green kryptonite candy cane or something. Anyway, it's Lobo's and he uses it for pounding people. Now, Superman also does come with some accessories, too. He comes with this space shield, and that makes sense, because in the episode, Lobo actually has a gun that shoots red sun rays at him, and that, you know, that's one of Superman's weaknesses. It'll damage him, right, because it takes his powers away, because under the influence of the red sun, Superman's powerless, so you know. He also comes with this right here, this gun clamp. You pull the trigger and it, you know, theoretically grabs onto stuff and people. I always thought that these kind of accessories were kind of stupid, but the thing is, these are kids' toys, right? So they don't have to make sense for grown-ups. They just have to be something cool looking that kids are going to want to play with. He's also got Flash, and he's also got Batman. The Flash I picked up from not long ago, and he seemed like he liked it a lot right away, and he plays with it all the time. He pretty much doesn't play with Superman unless he plays with Flash. And then I picked him up the Batman, and I got him the Batmobile at the same time. So this Batman is usually pretty much inseparable with the Batmobile. And overall, again, they look like they do in the cartoon, and they're simple enough that kids can play with these, and they're not frustrating. There's not so much going on that they just don't know what to do with it. Whereas, you know, I try to give him a DC Universe Classics figure, and he's just like, it's too big, there's so much articulation, and before you know it, he's got the figure all twisted up and spun around, and he just gets frustrated with this much articulation. Whereas this, like I said, just seems perfect for those young kids. Which is a step up as far as I'm concerned with articulation for kids, because this is what we had when we were kids. We had the Superpowers collection, and these, in my opinion, are still the raddest action figure line of all time. Running features, squeezing the arms, Batman, Superman, squeeze the legs, and, you know, they have a punch party. But there wasn't a whole lot as far as the actual articulation goes. And that was the norm. Shoulders, groin, head, knees, and most figures didn't even have knee articulation back in the day. G.I. Joe was the exception. They had a ton of articulation, but this was pretty much it. Of course, this video wouldn't be complete until we had a look at the Batmobile that also comes with this line, so I've snagged my son from his room just to bring it down here. And what do you guys think? I mean, as far as kid-friendly Batmobiles go, this one is A, accurate to the show, B, it's actually fairly accurate to what Batman's Batmobile has looked like in the comic books in the past. There have been times when Batman does have that dome completely over top of his head. There's the single fin along the back. You got the bulkier fins along the side, the turbine at the back, the yellow eyes there, the front. Like, this is actually a pretty darn good Batmobile. Like, if I wanted to collect this line, I wouldn't feel like it was complete until I picked up the Batmobile. And the Batmobile has a few features. For one, it's got easy access into the cockpit, and it's also got the back here, a trunk where you can fit another character, or maybe you can stuff the Joker in there, and that can be like, we're taking you to Arkham, and you're gonna sit in the trunk and shut up. And then you've also got this here in the front. You pop this open, and this, like, gun thing pops out. It's weird. It's not a missile, right? I think it's a net. Yeah, by the looks of it, it's supposed to be some sort of a bat net. Let's try it on Lobo. Let's stand Lobo right here, and let's aim it at him. You ready? Your days are numbered, Lobo. You're going to Arkham Asylum or Blackgate or somewhere. Boom! A pretty good feature on a kid's toy. Pretty standard to have something that shoots out, and it's not sharp, so it ain't gonna poke your kid's eye out. At least that's what a lot of parents are afraid of. Pretty darn cool. Now, comparing these figures to some of the other kid-friendly DC offerings we've had in the past, we have the Brave and the Bold Aquaman, and then here we have the Brave and the Bold Batman. I can't find the other ones. My kids play with these, and they're kind of all over the place. But that's roughly the size and scale you're going to get. So these aren't really that big a figure, so that shows you that these are actually just a little bit smaller. And then here we have other kid-centric Superman and Batman figures from the second Super Friends line. The first Super Friends line was much, much bigger. The figures are much more bulky, but these ones actually have power features. Oh, I got to use the other hand because my other hand's in the way. You ready? Punch around in a circle. That's pretty much what he did. What was Batman's feature? Does Batman even have a feature? Batman didn't. I believe this Batman actually came with a bat cycle or something, so he didn't have a power feature, but Anyway, you get the gist. Here they are in size comparison. And then finally we have a comparison here with some of the Infinite Heroes Crisis figures. Admittedly, some of the later waves actually had figures with more articulation in the groin and the leg area in general, whereas the earlier waves had much more simple articulation, as you can see here. And I gotta tell you, the kids really did not like going for the Flash and the Superman because there was so much articulation, whereas if they're going to play with the Infinite Heroes, much like with these figures, they want less articulation. Now on to the part of the video where I try to answer two little questions. One, do I like the product? And then two, do I think that you should pick it up as a collector? And I'll answer question number one first and then go on to number two. So question number one is actually the easiest. Yeah, I love them. I think they do a great job of being exactly what they are intended to be. Justice League / DC oriented character toys that are marketed towards that 4 to 9 / 10-year-old age gap. They do a great job of being exactly what they need to be. Kid-centric DC toys. The second question is a little bit more complex to answer. For one, all I can do is give my own example. When I walk through the toy aisles at Walmart or wherever and I see these kind of action figures floating around on the pegs, I will usually leave them there. I won't usually pick them up because I know they're marketed towards children, and that's DC's way of propagating new fans. That's DC's way of having new collectors that will grow up and love their characters and love the properties. And if all of us adult collectors show up and buy them all, then kids obviously aren't going to be able to see them on the toy shelf. That doesn't mean that I don't think you should pick these up as an adult collector. You got to make your own choice. I know that some people are archivists and they collect absolutely every single retail DC figure offering. So I guess in the end, question number two really is, you need to answer that yourself because I can't answer that one for you. If you want to pick them up and you're cool with it and you know they're just sitting on the pegs and kids aren't picking them up, then I say go for it. However, if you do feel like taking a loss and leaving some hanging on the pegs in the toy aisle, hoping that maybe some kids get to pick them up, that's cool too. Anyhow, super friends, that brings us to the end of the video, so thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry that it hasn't been more of a straight up unboxing review, but more of kind of a rambling talk about what I think about these figures and a closer look at them. I just don't own these for myself, and my son opened them up for his birthday. But if you've liked this video, if you found it helpful, useful, enjoyable, a reasonable waste of time, then hit the like button so I know that you liked it. And if you have any comments at all, please leave them down in the comment section below. Maybe we can get a discourse going on how you feel about being an adult collector who collects toys that sometimes are definitely marketed to children. How do you feel about it? Are you okay with it, or do you always pass them up and leave them for the kids? And if you think you might want to see more of my sort of content show up in your inbox, well, just hit that subscribe button. Remember to ding that bell so that you never miss a video, and I'll see you next time. Have an awesome day, DC Squad. Take care, everybody. See you next time.